Now, it may seem like I'm buying some time before the next big video drops, right? But I actually kind of like doing these easy mode videos, and I thought, why not continue the collection streak and show off a collection that is pretty decently sized, I'd say. I look at it from, time to time, especially in terms of just the magnitude of games I've accumulated for it, and I'm really excited to actually dig into this library because I haven't digged into this library, or dug into this library, dug into this library yet. So without further ado, guys, here is my PS3 collection. Now, as I mentioned before, a lot of the games I've played from the PS3 do not really originate from this collection. They originate from just PS4, PS Plus stuff. So I'm really, really excited to eventually sit down with a lot of these games, and this will be more of a video ranking, kind of like my excitement level for a lot of these titles, getting into them. So without further ado, why don't we just get started? Starting up, we've got Assassin's Creed 3. Don't know why Assassin's Creed 3 is the not only Assassin's Creed, first Assassin's Creed chronologically I have, but I'm not an Assassin's Creed person at all. If you've seen any episodes of the pause menu, you would know that I'll probably throw in a jab about Assassin's Creed here or there, but yeah, not the biggest Assassin's Creed person, personally, but I got it. I will try it eventually. I tried Unity back when I was younger, and didn't really enjoy that much, so. Next up, I've got Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. This is, again, it's Assassin's Creed. I don't have much to say about Assassin's Creed, honestly, so forgive me. But, yep, I've got Brotherhood, I've got Revelations, and that's where the Assassin's Creed content ends. Blaze Blue Cross Tag? Blaze Blue Chrono Phantasma. Chrono Phantasma. I've only heard of Blaze Blue through Cross Tag. I have a friend who's a huge Blaze Blue fan. Well, not huge. He likes it. He likes the series. And I've been excited to at least try it. I'm a fighting game person, I think. Tried Street Fighter, Tekken, Smash, Rivals of Aether. I've tried a couple in my time, right? Dragon Ball FighterZ, of course, is one of my favorites. And yeah, I'm excited to dig into one of these, especially with multiple people. I feel like this is something I'd really just be playing with myself or playing online, unless I really, really liked it, which I'm hoping I do. Borderlands, the pre-sequel. Now, Borderlands is something that I don't really think about that often. I feel like it's a relic of its time for sure, but I want to go back to it, especially with all the recent Borderlands hype as of the recording of this video, because I think there was a Borderlands movie that recently came out, which was not that great, but Borderlands even getting an adaptation on the big screen is something that is a testament, of course, to the strength of the IP, and that's just something I want to sit down with. Same thing with Borderlands 2. I've got that as well. So, Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Now, my first Call of Duty game was Call of Duty Cold War. I suck at Call of Duty, so I haven't really felt an urge to go back to the series, but I would love to at least pop this in and reminisce, because there was a time, of course, back in my life where I was basically fiending for an Xbox 360 and everything that came with that ecosystem, like Call of Duty, Halo, etc., Gears of War, and Black Ops 2 was kind of this one thing that I was like, oh, I would love to get my hands on it, but that mature rating is kind of the biggest thing that stops a man from, a boy from getting that, especially a boy in like the 7th grade. But yeah, I'm excited to at least pop this in one day, try it, see what all the fuss was about. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, same shtick, same deal. I also kind of want to point out that I love this like old school spine of the PlayStation 3. It has that kind of like griminess to it. I don't know what it is. It's like, it's a very like bold, is to it. Like, as opposed to like the more sleek PS3 tagline at the top. I don't know. It just is it's a relic of when, Spider-Man was big and popping for Sony, and I guess they just expanded the fonts and lettering to the PlayStation brand. I just talked about the spine the entire time. Modern Warfare 3, same gist. I think my PlayStation 3 collection is one that has most of my filler, honestly, but I think it's filler that I would say represents the generation that it's from. My Xbox collection is kind of where half of that comes from, but that will definitely be shown in a later video. So, Dark Souls 2. Now, this is probably one of the things I like the most out of my PS3 collection. I have not played a Dark Souls game. I've played a little bit of Bloodborne and a little bit of Elden Ring. And by a little bit of Elden Ring, I mean maybe 30 minutes probably. But I really want to jump into Souls games eventually. I don't have any confidence in my skill as a gamer, so it's kind of been the biggest thing that's pushed me away from games like this. But still, though, doesn't mean I can't appreciate what it's done for gaming. Just the aura and the sauce it has, obviously, and just the fact that they got a steelbook cover of this, I think is pretty dope. My brother was just in here like 20 minutes ago, telling me that he thought this was pretty cool, and I think it's pretty cool too. So we've got Resident Evil Revelations, and yeah, I have only played Resident Evil 1, which was on the PS1, and I didn't really like it that much. I thought it, of course, didn't age well, but you know, I'm trying to stop using that term a lot when I talk about old games. I want to jump into a Resident Evil game one of these days, especially with Resident Evil 4. I feel like that's one that a lot of people talk about, especially with how many times it's been remade and ported. It feels like it just has to be my first Resident Evil game. But Resident Evil Revelations is one I've seen a lot, especially the 3DS port, because I think they did a 3DS port of this game. Residence of Fate. Now, this primarily is one of those like one-day purchases where I am interested somewhat in the game, but it is one of those games that a lot of people have said will jump up in price, and I like really obscure games from really obscure systems. Of course, I wouldn't call the PS3 obscure, but I didn't want to run into a chance where a game that is pretty cheap right now would eventually become just exorbitantly pricey later on. So, Skyrim. Now, a really funny joke I'm trying to go about my collection is making sure I have Skyrim for every single possible platform. Right now I have Skyrim for the 360, I have Skyrim for the PS4, I have Skyrim for the PS3, I have Skyrim for the Switch. So right now I'm focusing on getting Skyrim on everything imaginable that it's been on, and I'm almost there. But Skyrim for the PS3, it's Skyrim. There's not much I can really say about it. I talked about Skyrim a little bit in my Switch collection video, so if you want to check that out, of course, it's Skyrim. Next up, we've got the Sly Collection. Now, I do have a lot to say about this because I've played the Sly Collection often. And I would consider it to be the best way to experience these games. I like what comes out of the PS2 games in terms of stuff like, you know, shading, maybe, you know, Sly 1 is kind of the only game that really, I would say, makes a difference on whether or not you're playing it with the collection versus the original. You know, 3 had a 3D glasses mechanic, which I think has kind of been nixed through the collection, obviously, because, you know, this didn't come with any 3D glasses of any kind. But I really enjoy the collection primarily because it has 3 games I love, all bundled into a really neat package. Next up, though, we've got Sly Cooper Thieves in Time. Now, Sly 4 is a game that I think gets too much hate in the community. I am not, of course, the biggest fan of Sly 4, but I think there was just so much potential that came out of its plot, its setting, revisiting all the ancestors, because I love the concept of the Cooper family and the Cooper ancestors. And I personally think the gameplay is pretty solid, honestly, and the character writing is not good either. These are departures from the characters from the original trilogy, but I would say that Thieves in Time does a good amount of things right, but it doesn't do a lot of things right. Yeah, that's how I put that. And I would definitely recommend that you play the other games so you have some better context when you go to Thieves in Time, and just form that opinion through your own, because it could be easy to look at this game with rose-tinted glasses if this is like your first Sly game, and they're all chronological, of course. So, you know, it's called Sly Cooper Thieves in Time, but it's Sly 4 because it's just a continuation of 3. Next up, we've got a game I'm super proud of, one of the best games in my collection, and you can probably see it because of how much I'm shaking the case like this, but Sonic 06, or formerly titled Sonic the Hedgehog, is the 15th anniversary title from the franchise, and a game that I used to hate kind of unnecessarily, kind of too much, but I feel like we've all gotten into that time period where we hated a game too much because it maybe had too much sauce, too much swagger, just a vibe that was unmatched. And Sonic 06 didn't have that, but I think that as we've seen through Project 06, which is a Sonic the Hedgehog recreation, fan recreation, it had some good ideas, and it was ambitious for sure. Was it solely just a victim of time crunch? Not really. There were some things in here like the story, which I'm not really the biggest fan of, which are kind of bad on the bad side. But this game will forever be scarred, of course, by the technical issues that it faces and nearly destroying the Sonic brand. But because of that, I had to etch it in history with the collection, and it was pretty cheap too. So if you want to have a funny little haha moment until you realize you spent $10 on garbage, then might as well pick it up. Next up, I've got Sonic Unleashed. Now, Sonic Unleashed is different. It is a better game than 06. It's not my favorite Sonic game, mostly because I was like, oh, you know, the Werehog sections aren't that bad. And they're better when you're not using them, you know, or playing them on a Wiimote, which is what I was doing when I was younger. But the slowdown here is very noticeable, and it's kind of wild that the PlayStation 3 of all consoles can't really handle Sonic Unleashed. You know, I think that the story, of course, is way better. The visuals are just way better than 06. Yeah, I liked a good amount of Unleashed, especially the modern stages. Some of my favorite stages in Sonic period. I don't think they're, of course, better than Generations, obviously, but you know, Generations kind of has the blueprint of being like, hey, we can take all the good stuff out of the Sonic franchise and just plop it in there, which makes me appreciate Unleashed more because it was trying something new, and it has been looked upon more favorably as time has gone on. So yeah, I played it for a little bit this year, and I enjoyed, you know, the small bit I played, but the Werehog stage just kind of tapped me out a little bit, and I was like, I could be playing something else. So next up, I've got The Last of Us. Now, The Last of Us is a game I dunk on a lot. I've said things like it's ruined gaming. Every game's trying to be The Last of Us. Neil Druckmann is so full of himself, which are things that I still believe, even though I've not played The Last of Us. Now, you can call me a clown. You can just go about your merry way. That's fine. It's honestly whatever. So I'm acknowledging the fact that I haven't played these games and I still have an opinion on them. But I do want to touch on them eventually, and that's one thing I do want to make known. Because at the end of the day, a game that has had this wide of an impact on the space should at least be discussed by someone who's actually played it. Which is why my takes on The Last of Us have just been kind of quick jabs and not really anything too serious. Ooh, next up though, I've got Uncharted Drake's Fortune? Uncharted Drake's Fortune. Uncharted is a game I really, really like. I don't think about it that often, primarily because I don't think it's really like anything too noteworthy, anything to discuss like too in depth. I feel like, you know, it is The Last of Us before The Last of Us, where a lot of games, of course, were influenced by it, but it certainly didn't really have the impact that The Last of Us had on the gaming space. But I liked Uncharted 1. I've played half of Uncharted 2. I've not played 3, but I have a friend who I just convinced to play the entire trilogy of Uncharted, and I'm happy about that. Uncharted 1 is definitely a game I'd recommend that you check out. It's pretty short. It has aged relatively well, I think, in terms of its writing and its gameplay. Visuals, maybe not as much, but still not bad. Also, can we talk about just how ugly the clash of like the red with like the cover is? It just, I don't really like it that much. Coming up next, we've got the Mass Effect trilogy. Now, the Mass Effect trilogy is something I haven't touched before, right? And I will say, though, that I got it primarily because this is kind of cool. This is really dope, in my opinion. And I do want to play the Mass Effect games. For something to be a, you know, EA published, BioWare developed RPG is something that's kind of intriguing to me. I know people say later Mass Effect games are bad, which kind of seems to be the case, honestly, for a lot of franchises that originated from this era, you know, continuing on into Gen 8 and all that. But yeah, I mean, I think Mass Effect is one of those games that is worth a shot. You know, it's worth a shot, I feel. At least to me, someone who has not played it. Fairy Fencer F. This is a game that I've seen a lot around. No, that's not true. I've seen it occasionally, maybe like once or twice, really. Mostly on Steam, because when I was younger, I was really into games like this. So I thought, you know, I don't have this game on Steam. I saw it for a pretty decent price in my local game store, and I was like, you know what? Why not? Why not? Next up, we've got FIFA 16. I've never been a FIFA person. I have known people who've been FIFA people. I've been slightly a bit of a soccer person, you know, when I was younger, especially when I was younger, because I'm Nigerian from a very heavily soccer-loving country. I've only played FIFA maybe like once or twice in my life. I like FIFA gameplay, honestly, but I'm not going out there buying the new FIFA or buying the new of any sports game, really. So, but, you know, it was $2, and it allowed me to at least etch the franchise into the collection, because I don't think I have a FIFA game that's not this. So, next up, it's loose, so apologies for that, but I have the God of War collection. Now, the God of War collection is compiles the first 2 games, because they remade 3 separately. But I've only played the new God of War duology, which would be the Norse mythology one, which is God of War 2018, God of War Ragnarok, and I've watched a ton of videos on the, you know, actual Greek trilogy, and I'm very excited to actually jump into it myself. But as it stands right now, I've not touched this, but I'm really glad that I own the trilogy, even though it's not complete in box. I really need to focus on being a little more diligent with complete in box games and collecting complete in box, but this was before I really made that resolution, so please forgive me. On that same note, God of War 3, it exists, it's in the collection, you already know. God of War Ascension, I think this was originally a PSP game, don't quote me on that, but it's a, you know, it's a God of War side story, God of War side game, spin-off. It's not an actual mainline game, I guess. I'm excited to also jump in this one too. I've watched videos on this as well, so there's that, but yeah. Gran Turismo 5. Now, Gran Turismo 5 is, I don't think I have anything specific to say about. I've played the Gran Turismo games on the PS1. I really like them. I like older style racing games or like newer style racing games, but the Gran Turismo franchise has, it's piqued my interest, you know what I'm saying? It's gotten me to take a look at it, take a deep dive into it, and be interested. So, Gran Turismo 5 is just the entry on the PS5 that I decided to go with. So, next up, I got Grand Theft Auto 4. Grand Theft Auto 4. I don't hear this one discussed that often, honestly. I played 5 first, primarily GTA Online that came from 5. But I'm excited to jump into this because what I have heard from it is that it actually has a very tightly knit narrative. Probably a more tightly knit narrative than 5, which I'm really excited to jump into just based off that. Moving on, we've got Infamous, the Infamous collection. I believe this has Infamous 1 and 2. And I played Infamous Second Son. That's pretty much is where my Infamous knowledge background comes from. And I don't know, I liked it, but a lot of people say it doesn't hold a candle to the Infamous duology. And to that, I just have to say, all right, might as well try it out myself. This is one of those that's not in a case, it's in a sleeve. Next up, we got the Jak and Daxter collection. Now, Jak and Daxter has piqued my interest for quite some time now. I, of course, am a huge Sly Cooper fan. I consider myself a Ratchet & Clank fan because I played the remake of the first game and Rift Apart, and I like both of them. But I had not touched a Jak and Daxter game until late last year, which I was able to finally do through this collection. And I was very excited to do so. Jak 2 and Jak 3 are games that people say are very different in terms of tone compared to Jak 1, and that's something I wouldn't, really be able to verify that much because I haven't touched Jak 2 and 3, but I have touched Jak 1 about almost halfway through it, and yeah, hopefully I can jump back into it eventually. But I'd say probably Jak and Daxter is, just off of what I've played, the one I like the least out of Sony's big 3 from the PS2 era of platformers. So next up, I've got Kingdom Hearts HD 2.5 Remix. I'm sorry, I was not going to remember that title off the top of my head, so I apologize for not doing the YouTuber thing of me. But Kingdom Hearts is a franchise I also got into late of last year, and I liked playing the first game on the PS2, I, had joined in on the Kingdom Hearts jokes, funny haha, memes, but I was always like, I want to at least try these games out, right? And I liked what I played out of one, right? And I want to eventually get into the other games, so I've gotten a ton of Kingdom Hearts games since then. 2, 3, Birth by Sleep, Chain of Memories, just a ton of Kingdom Hearts games because they're all relatively cheap. So I was like, might as well continue collecting for a franchise that I've grown to like, I've grown to appreciate. So next up, I've got L.A. Noire. Now, L.A. Noire is a game I first heard of when the Switch port came out, and I don't have the Switch port, but I do have this. I think it's a detective game that can be kind of funny just based on the clips I've seen of it. So, but I haven't touched it, so there's not much I can say about this one. But I have it on the PS3. Not sure how the PS3 version holds up to other versions, but yeah, it's there. Next up, Little Big Planet. Now, Little Big Planet is a franchise that I've heard a lot of praise for over the years. I have never been able to play it myself because my first PlayStation was the PS2, and then after that, I skipped the PS3 and went directly to the PS4. But that was like towards the end of the PS4's life cycle, and I don't think they really released a Little Big Planet for that console. If they did, feel free to correct me in the comments. But I'm excited to eventually play a Little Big Planet game and see what the fuss is about, especially because I've always been interested in it as a kid, but I just never got the chance to get around to it. So, next up, this is important. Next up, we've got the Metal Gear Solid Collection. Now, it's a little weird because it starts from 2 and then goes on forward, and only in the actual recent collection they released, which is like a volume thing, did it actually have one like remastered on new hardware. But I just played 2. I played 1 and then I immediately played 2, and I liked it a lot. The Metal Gear Solid franchise is something that I never really thought about that much, but I can see the hype now. I can generally see the hype. I'm excited to eventually jump into 3. I've heard Peace Walker's pretty good. I've been trying to find Peace Walker standalone, but I haven't been able to. So I'm excited to jump into Peace Walker, at least through this, because I do have 3 standalone, which will come in my PS2 collection video. So, yeah, it's Metal Gear. Speaking of Metal Gear, we got Metal Gear 4, Guns of the Patriots, which is a very fitting title if you played 2. I primarily got this game because I think it's still soft locked to the not soft locked, but you know what I mean. Like, it's still pretty much exclusive to the PS3, and I wanted to get in on the wave before potentially this price went up, and I wouldn't be able to play the game on original hardware. Metal Gear Solid 4, not much to say about it. I haven't played 3. I haven't played Peace Walker. I know that there's a little bit of jumping back and forth timeline-wise, but I know this is where we kind of get back to the snake that we know. Minecraft. I have Minecraft on the 360, the Xbox One, the Switch, my PC, PS3, PS4. I have Minecraft on so many different... The Vita. Almost forgot that. I have Minecraft on so many different things, but I feel like that's not exclusive to me. Everyone has Minecraft on so many different platforms because it's just so easy to get now at this point. But the PS3 edition has always kind of intrigued me because I've always seen Minecraft as that thing you play on an Xbox 360 or an Xbox in general. Next up, I've got Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch. People say this is actually a very solid RPG. I don't know if this is a direct Studio Ghibli tie-in or if it's just a game designed by Studio Ghibli, animators or directors. Yeah, it was also another one of those things where I think this one's also locked to the PS3. Again, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But yeah, really excited to jump into this one too. One Piece Unlimited World R. Unlimited World R. I didn't know if it was Unlimited World Red or whatever. But I started reading One Piece last year. And I really like One Piece. You can't see it, but there's a whole One Piece hat that's above me. One Piece Unlimited World are a lot of One Piece games I've heard are just kind of bad to mediocre. But I might as well try it out for myself, you know what I'm saying? Who am I if I'm not willing to engage in the slop tie-in of the things that I love, right? I can't really call myself a man. Next up, we've got PlayStation Smash Bros. Now, I've only been somewhat interested in this because I'm like, more Sly content. But it's not bad. I played the Vita version, and I'm like, it's alright, it's whatever. Yeah, they weren't competing with Smash Bros. Off of this thing, so what was even the point? I guess it was to have Sly Cooper interact with Nathan Drake. For me, at least, I would say that was the point. All right, next up, we've got Portal 2. Now, I haven't played Portal 1, but I do have Portal 2. And, yeah. Next up, I've got Ratchet & Clank Future Tools of Destruction. The Ratchet & Clank PS3 games are just not talked about at all, I feel. Again, if you're within that space and you feel like they are, disagree with me in the comments, please. This one looked cool. I definitely want to play one of these after I finish like the actual trilogy. I started the second one, but I eventually shelved it so I could go back to Persona. But Ratchet & Clank Future, I think they had a whole Future sub-series off of this. Next up, we've got Rayman Origins. Now, I was really interested in Rayman when I was younger, in the sense where I was like, oh man, like, I really want to play one of those games. I got the demo on the Wii U, and I just played that over and over again. Demo on the 3DS, play that over and over again. And now I finally own Rayman games, and I haven't actually played them, which is crazy, I know. So, next up, we've got Red Dead Redemption. Now, I haven't touched this yet, but pretty much everyone and their mom glazes this thing, right? I'm excited to hop on the glaze train too. Pause. But Red Dead 1 is the one I'm most likely to be starting with, even though Red Dead 2, I think is not really a continuation of the... That sounds dumb. It has to be. It has to be. Sorry. I'll get to Red Dead 1 eventually, but not anytime soon, I don't think. I talked about the Uncharted games earlier, so I might as well talk about Uncharted 2. This has one of the best opening scenes in the game, I think. Just, honestly, ever. I feel like, even though it's not talked about often, opening scenes, opening visuals, intros in the game, just the whole chaos of that whole opening segment is brilliantly done. It's well directed, and it's probably one of the more memorable moments I have from the 50% runtime I've spent with Uncharted 2. So, and Uncharted 3. Now, I have the whole Uncharted collection for the PS4, but I'm really glad I own the games individually. I haven't actually touched Uncharted 3 yet, so as I mentioned earlier in the video, but looking forward to doing it eventually. I'm gonna blitz past these because I can. I've got a bunch of PlayStation Move games. If you're interested in what these games are, I have Dance on Broadway, iPet, Just Dance 2014, Medieval Moves, Deadman's Quest. That could be very story driven, I'm not gonna lie. Just Dance 4. Oh yeah, that's weird. Before I was like, wait a minute, that's actually kind of weird because I don't even think about Just Dance games that are not named after the year. Okay, I'm not skipping this one. PlayStation Move Heroes. Now, I revere the big three of PS2 platforming so much that I was like, oh man, like making a game with the three of them to like advertise like the not Wii is, I don't know, like I'm interested. I'm curious, and I watched like all the cutscenes from the game online because I was like, I genuinely do not care about the gameplay. I don't care about PlayStation Move gameplay at all. So I watched all the cutscenes, and it's wild just how like much of a nothing burger this game is. You know, having a chance to put these three iconic characters together and just coming up with this like feels like it should make me more sad, but like I don't really think I care that much, especially living in a generation where Ratchet is really the only three of these icons that have survived. Yeah, I don't know. It just makes me feel like, whatever, I guess. I'm just kind of resigned to it. Sports Champions. Sports Champions. I own 2 versions of Sports Champions. And Zumba Fitness. Now, you may be wondering, or not, I'm going to tell you anyway, whether you're wondering or you're not, why I have all these PlayStation Move games. And it's because they were bundled together, and I was like, why not? They were bundled together for a very cheap price, and it actually came with a PlayStation Move peripheral. Pretty cool, if I say so myself. And I was like, you know what, for collection's sake, which is kind of where a lot of games I collect nowadays kind of originates from, for collection's sake. I was like, why not? Why not? I think it's a little cool, actually. I'm not gonna lie, but it's kind of funny to see everyone just kind of taking after Nintendo, as opposed to just acting like they're the child in the corner that they don't need to worry about nowadays. So, and finally, I've got the Walking Dead Telltale games. Friend Brendan, shout out Brendan, streamed this to me back during COVID, I think. Either during COVID or a little bit after. I was very intrigued by these games in terms of Telltale games in general, not just The Walking Dead. You know, your choices impact the story and all that, but I was like, why not get the first Telltale game in my collection and have it be The Walking Dead, primarily the one that I watched on stream. And with all that being said, that is the PS3 collection. I would say it's a little underwhelming as far as titles go, and that's kind of just to be expected a little bit. But still, though, there's a lot of good stuff to play here. I'm sorry if this video kind of felt a little bit like a nothing burger in the sense, but I do like talking about my collection. I like kind of analyzing it right now in terms of where it stands and whether or not I need to keep going in terms of this direction or in terms of the strategies I have right now. But I think in terms of as far as PS3 games go, I have pretty much almost every PS3 game I could realistically want. You know, there's always a chance to find more Resident of Fates or Metal Gear 4s or anything like that where I'm like, well, I would be interested in playing this later, and I don't want to play it when it's $100 on Marketplace or something. So, but with all that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I've been Ganache, and I'll be working my outros a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, thanks for tuning in. See you guys next time.